We give $50 billion a year in foreign aid. And in Egypt, we gave them $1.5 billion to a country that continues to become more extreme. We have Syria, we have all these countries who hate us. So the question is, why do we continue, in light of our economic problems, why do we continue to give foreign aid to countries that hate us, and we're giving all this money to Islamic extremists? So the question is, $50 billion, and recently Forbes magazine called South Carolina one of the death spiral states, because now we have more people dependent on government than the private sector. So why are we giving $50 billion, which is basically wealth redistribution, to other foreigners and not putting our country first?
There's no doubt we have about 60% of Americans receive something from the government, without any question. Way too high. We need to drive that down. We have a spending addiction without question. There was an opportunity for us in the Senate to make a decision on our foreign aid to Egypt. Classic example, the Rand Paul Amendment back about 2 months ago, to not provide more resources to the country in the form of F-16s and tanks. I voted not to give that money because we ought to question what we get in return for our investments, but we ought to analyze how to make the America safer by our foreign investments. And Egypt's a classic example. And as we move forward, if we find ourselves in a position where Egypt's military action becomes defined as a coup, we'll be in a stronger position to cut off that aid, because we certainly cannot fund coups. And so until we get to that point, you'll hear myself, Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, and others take a strong stand on questioning what do we get on the return on the investment for the money that we're giving out throughout this world.
Senator Scott.
Yes, sir.
I have a question for you that I'd like you to think about. Where in the Constitution, when we talk about giving money to other countries, does the Constitution allow the federal government to give money to any country or anybody? Where is it in the Constitution? I've never found it. Trey Gowdy once told me that he couldn't find it either, but they do it anyway.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. You cannot find it as the answer to your question. The enumerated powers are pretty clear. It doesn't include us giving money out, period.
No.
It doesn't stop us from doing it, I mean, at the end of the day, but we do not have the constitutional authority to do that, and or any of the entitlement programs, and it continues on. Where we find ourselves having the real consternation with our friends on the left, whether they're in the Republican Party or not, the friends on the left have this philosophy that's undergirded by quicksand, which says that we can continue to spend what we do not have, buying things we know we cannot afford, impressing the world that's not impressed. And so we have a major debate on our hands very consistently on how do we rein in spending and break the spending addiction. It won't be solved overnight, but the fact of the matter is, in 2010, when you guys sent 87 crazy people like me up to Congress, we started to be able to slow the spending down. For us to put the brakes on it, we're going to continue to work on that. You have that.
I think we'd like to see you guys up there representing us start talking about we've got to obey the Constitution. We're taking oath to it.
Absolutely.
Start obeying.
I think when if you take a look, one of the things that we did when we started having the leadership in the House in 2010 was we required a constant. You had to show us in the Constitution, not the general welfare clause, but you had to show us in the Constitution where you had the ability to do it, whatever it was. We had connected it back to the Constitution, and it slowed our spending. It didn't stop our spending, but it slowed our spending. Some things we're not going to fix overnight, so I don't pretend that we're going to be able to do things that we cannot do. But if we don't start attacking the problem will never go away. We have a reason why we have $17 trillion in debt. It's because we are addicted to spending. And we've got to find a way to be addicted to discipline. Not nearly as much. Not nearly.